It's gonna be a tough 4 years.
This was inevitable. This is the America I know.
Going to a lot of these swing states where we had a lot of people who viewed things very differently than we did on many levels.
I've been trying to cut those people off like dead feet for years, and I think it's not working.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
My Fab Five minus Karamo.
He's still alive.
Yeah.
He's just not here today.
Yes.
You're the honorary member today.
Okay, I will take that.
You
Absolutely.
look just like Karamo.
Spitting image.
Yes.
We're thrilled to have you guys here. It's a major moment, season 9. You've been racking up Emmys for most of the last decade now. Congratulations, it's a huge accomplishment. And the season is incredible. I saw a few of the first episodes, sort of sneak peek. There are dragons and weddings and transformations that we're ready for. And
Never heard it described that way, but you're not wrong, actually.
it's a really wild
works.
season.
Yeah.
What do you feel like has made season 9 special for you all?
For me, it's a two-parter. The heroes' stories are so special. They're the thing that makes every season special and unique. Every city or every state has a unique vibe, and Vegas really has a unique vibe, because the Vegas I know is very different from the Vegas I now know, or the Vegas I knew was very different from the Vegas I now know. And so I think that our heroes are so interesting, so complex. Their stories are not what I expected from Las Vegas whatsoever. I was expecting all glitz and glam, and it's so not that. And then also, I think what makes this season so special is, sorry, Jared, I know you hate when we give you attention, but having somebody new in the mix and being so fresh. I know he's been in entertainment for a long time, but he's so fresh to the show. His curiosity and his excitement about what we get to do, that also really got me going this season in a sexual way and just
That's the only way I like it, Tan.
Yeah, Jeremiah, I mean, let's go there now. What has been the most surprising thing about joining this family for you?
How much I needed a family. Which I have a family, for the record, but I'm saying a group of friends, queer allies, a community. I knew the impact of the show. The legacy of what this show represents is all about love and connection, and that's amazing and something I was so excited to be a part of. But coming in and meeting these 4, getting relationships with them, seeing myself through their stories and connecting with them on a level that I just haven't had, is something that's been really beautiful. And we talked about it a little bit, but I definitely have been reflecting on it the last 2 days. And, every episode of this season, I'm also peeling back layers of myself alongside them and the people that we meet. And the person that I left is so much more than I was when I even started the show. So that was the biggest beautiful surprise, is the friendships and the family we have.
I would say that peeling for you happened on and off camera.
Yeah, for
Anyways,
sure.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both clothes and emotions.
Antoni, I'm gonna pick on you.
Go on.
Go ahead, you talk about peeling clothes.
One reason.
enough.
Peeling clothes and crying, right? The brand. I think that it's always an emotional journey, right? To see someone transform in the way that you all help guide them through that process. I felt like this season stood out as being really emotional, and there are a lot of tears, both happy and heartbreaking ones. Nicole's story really spoke to me.
Have you seen Jenye's yet?
I have not.
Oh.
Is it in the second half of the season?
Yeah.
Give us a sneak
I think
peek.
it's episode 5.
What moves you about that?
There's a scene in her episode with Jeremiah where, in my experience on Queer Eye, I've never, because we're there, so I see it in real life, and then I do cry. I've cried lots of episodes watching it back where I didn't see something and then I see it there. I'm like, wow. But this part, I have never ugly chortled, no air left in my windpipe. I was drowning on my own tears. Also, this other episode that's really, did you see Clive's episode yet?
Yeah.
It's not, yeah.
Yes.
His also is I'm really obviously thinking about this time in our country right now where I have this family member, right? Who has this other queer family member, right? And action-wise, supports the queer family member, but then votes for Donald Trump. So I'm really interested in this schism of person who's personally down with a queer person, but then is completely on the other side of the political spectrum. Right. And I'm interested in that because I've been trying to cut those people off dead feet for years, and I think it's not working.
No.
And not in sort of an Ellen DeGeneres, let's just be kind, and I love Ellen, but I just think we have to talk to people. We can't just full cut people off, because if you do that, then we're like on these islands that don't chat with each other.
Yeah.
And so I just keep coming back to him because I'm like, how can I just hold space for someone for change?
Yeah.
And so I've been curious about that.
That was the interesting thing about Jenye too, not to kind of, but her relationship with religion and faith, which for me as a member of the queer community is very complicated and not some place that I've particularly felt embraced ever. To watch her receive everything that we were giving through us was was profound.
Also, in addition to Jeremiah being new to the cast this season, we also have a new iteration or way for people to engage with Queer Eye via the live show. How did this come to be? What can people expect?
I mean, well, that was an idea that was birthed by Scout, who are the creators of the show. And for me personally, I think, especially with kind of, where we're at with a lot of changes that are about to happen and happening right now and have been happening politically, I feel like I actually work harder with the ones that I probably disagree with on a lot of things. Those are the ones I'm most curious about because I genuinely just don't understand and I'm confused and I'm deeply curious. And I think it's an opportunity on the tour to just go out and actually just connect with these people. Granted, it's going to be people who probably support the show and a lot of things we believe in who are going to be coming to see us. But I think that it's important to just kind of practice visibility, just to have our faces be out there and have those conversations, hear questions from the audience, and interact with them.
This will be a new kind of tour, but the last 9 seasons really have been a tour of America in some ways. I'm curious how visiting all of these different states, you've been in Georgia, you've been in Pennsylvania, you've been in Arizona, you've been in Nevada, how has that changed your perspective of the country?
We didn't get to go to Arizona, Queen. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just listing swing states.
That's so true, you did do that, that's so funny. No, just like, I really love that I've gotten the experience to spend that much time in different cities around the country, because like, that's just like been an interesting thing to get to do, like to get to like live in Kansas City for 3 months, live in Atlanta for 3 months, live in Philly for like I've just gotten to experience different parts. So I do think Vegas, God, where can you go to like a spa in the morning, but then like a gay pool party in the afternoon, but then go back to the spa and then finish your night off with like a crab leg buffet?
Yeah.
I just think that is such a good buffet, honey.
Yeah, some of us had slightly different experiences.
Yeah, I didn't have that
My
experience.
typical Saturday and
Sure.
Sunday, and it was really fun.
The thing that's kind of stuck with me, and we were doing a lot of press yesterday, and I was thinking about just like my perception of Vegas as this sort of, it's a place that you go for a weekend destination, you go see a show, whether it's a boxing match or like anything like that, you go to restaurants, you go out, and then you just leave, Yeah, like last time I was there was for the Mayweather fight, which lasted like 6 seconds, like ages ago.
I can't believe
and you have this perception of like what the city is, and then you go and you meet these individuals that keep the city living and breathing, and it just kind of shifts. It's like going to a lot of these swing states, and like specifically I think Atlanta had that effect on me, where we had a lot of people who viewed things very differently than we did on many levels. And it's like, once you really get to know the person, it reminds me, I don't remember what the first line, you remember when we had our first confessionals in episode 1? Where it was like trying to figure out how we're similar as opposed to how we're different. Or even with Jenye, who I adored, but like to your point of like how important her faith was, and she saw the work that we were all doing as a collective unit and the things that she was experiencing and the gifts that she was receiving as a result of her faith. And that was just like, holy shit, like that was such an aha moment for me, because again, like very like problematic relationship, like being raised Catholic and all of that. So when I'm in those situations and in those environments, I should say, where I am a little afraid, a little more angry, when I really lean into the person and I kind of like, you uncover, like you see what's kind of like behind the curtain, it's sort of like, oh, I don't necessarily agree with you more, but I understand you more. And that helps me sleep better at night. It lowers my cortisol and I'm able to like drop my shoulders just a little bit more.
I know that all of us have had experiences before the show in places that aren't LA and New York. But I live in Utah, and I've lived there for a long time. And my husband's family's from Wyoming. I'm in Wyoming a lot. Going to the places that we go to, most of the places are a lot more progressive and liberal. So for me, it's been kind of a novelty to be in a city where I feel so free. It feels strange to be in a place where I'm like, oh, you just get to be who you want to be. Whereas in Utah and Wyoming, that's not really the case. So I've found going to all these places every season really fascinating. And nothing has really shocked me. I've seen America for a long time.
Do you all feel that your experiences, both inside and outside of the show, gave you a little bit of a preview as to the result of the 2024 election, or were you surprised in the way that a lot of people seem to have been surprised?
I was bamboozled. I mean, listen, I read everything. Actually, if I wasn't in design, I would have 100% gone into politics. I live for politics. I love it. I was definitely surprised, and I was actually quite ashamed of myself that I didn't have a better grasp on what was going on and what was fundamentally important to people, and it was starkly different than what I had anticipated. I can't believe I'm quoting Karamo, but he said something that I think was super profound a couple of days ago, which is it's going to be really tricky for us to find a way, because there's a lot of people grieving and then there's a lot of people celebrating, and that's just true. That's where we're at. And I think what I love about the show, and especially where we're at now politically and socially, is it's about that space between, and not about right or left. It's about finding common ground and remembering to talk to one another. And shows like this give people the opportunity to sit in their living room in the safety of their own space and to see somebody's story and hopefully connect to just one nuance of what they're going through. Just one thing that you see in Jenye, just one thing that you see in their stories that you go, oh, they're a human being. Like that could happen to me. And that is what I think the Trojan horse is of this show and this experience. And that is what, for me, is particularly thrilling at this moment to be a part of it. Because it's going to be a tough 4 years for any marginalized community or any marginalized person in this country. And we just have to remind each other to listen to one another.
I come from multiple marginalized groups. I was not shocked at all by what happened. I wasn't shocked the first time when everyone was umming and ahhing, do you think he'll win? I said very clearly to my husband, I've never wanted to be more wrong in my life, but he's going to win. Oh. And when he started running again, everyone thinking they could fight it. I think as a foreigner, we have I'm also an American citizen now, but I think as a foreigner, I see it with slightly fresher eyes. I'm shocked at the shock in everybody. I'm so proud to be an American, and I think I'm more patriotic than most Americans, even though I'm told that I can't be a patriot. I'm like, no, I'm the ultimate patriot. I fought for a long time to live in this country, a heck of a long time. And most people here just had the luxury of being born here. You don't have to fight for anything to get here. But I see it through a different lens than most, I think. And this was inevitable. This is the America I know.
I have done a lot of work on therapy in the last year. And the election kept coming up for me. I've always been very vocal in politics, and I didn't know if we would win or lose. I was really worried about, because 2016, I felt that Trump was going to win, and then 2020, I was like, oh, I think he's going to win again. But then when we won, I was like, maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not a very good predictor. And so then this year, I really just didn't know. I thought it would be close. I didn't think we would lose every battleground state. That was really, I think, tough to take, really disappointing. But as Tan said, not shocked, more of just disappointed, trying to find a way forward. Although I do gotta say, Tammy Baldwin, first out lesbian member of the Senate ever, won re-election, I think, for the third time in a row. I had the honor of interviewing her years ago. She's incredible. But it's that's middle of America. Alyssa Slotkin, she won in Michigan. Jackie Rosen got reelected in Nevada. We broke the supermajority in North Carolina's state legislator. So it's so much did happen that was really good, and which is hard to say, but it is true. Also, I have so much respect for Vice President Harris, and I think going through what she went through and coming up with the campaign that she did is incredible. But my friend Alok said this to me, and this always rings in my ears, and I think that this has been so true my entire lifetime. And after having been the subject and the scapegoat of why we lost this election, several times from so many people, ranging from former governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, to, that commercial was pinpointed as a reason why we lost. And I think ultimately the reason why we lost, and we will always lose, is when Democrats run away from their base and Republicans run towards their base, that will depress turnout every single time. And so until Democrats stop trying to act like Republicans, we are not going to win elections. And if you look at Democrats that did win their elections, they did not run away from their base. And actually, President Biden in 2020 ran an incredibly progressive campaign. I love Vice President Harris. I wish she would have won. I think she would have been an incredible president, but I think Democrats really, if you want to look at it at the brass tacks, you cannot ignore your base and run away from them and think that they're going to win, because there are not secret Democrat voters.
You mentioned a couple things there that I want to hit on and unpack a little bit more. The first being that it's not only the presidential that matters, right? Especially for the LGBT community. We are used to having our rights decided by courts and legislatures and being sort of a political football. And a lot of these other offices really matter for the actual lived experience of millions of LGBTQ people. I'm curious what you all are hearing from your LGBTQ fans about the election and in this moment where you are such visible ambassadors for the community, right? And people are looking to you as leaders. I'm curious what you're hearing from them and what your message to them has been since the election as people are kind of feeling afraid.
I'm not hearing anything other than fear.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that are scared about what to expect. And I think, you know, I am the eternal optimist, and I really do believe fundamentally in people. I think it's not always the easiest road, but I think about Clyde, you know, and that experience of like the day one versus the end of that week. And I felt like there was a softness and an openness and a vulnerability that he gave. And I really believe in people. And I think it's going to be a lot of work. And so I think my commitment is to just keep showing up and showing people and having conversations and having the tough conversations and still showing up, because what's our alternative? You know, to get quiet. That's the opposite of what we need to be doing. But people are fucking scared. Yeah.
I'm very good at preparing for the ultimate worst. It's kind of my forte, and I try to do that, but I think it was definitely, I think it's what you all were saying to some extent. I wasn't shocked, but I was just like really disappointed and really bummed. Like it just made me blue. I'll say it, like I'm not an extremely political person. I know that I probably should be. I practice my visibility in my own way as being a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. But what does happen whenever I feel like my rights are on the verge of being taken away, that's when suddenly I start paying a lot more attention and I start educating myself more. And that's what I did the first time that Trump got elected, and being more involved and reading more. And I'm just looking forward to that, and I hope that others are too.
Absolutely. And I do just want to hit on the unique threat by Trump and others in the country to the LGBTQ plus community has mostly been centered on an anti-trans sentiment. You all have had trans people on the show this season. From the episodes I've already seen, I know that there are trans family members of some of your heroes. JVN, you've been directly targeted by some of this like anti-trans messaging and attacks that go against all LGBTQ people that don't conform to what others expect of them. And I don't think that this is going away, right? This seems to be like a real strategy that people are doubling down on. I'm curious from JVN, if we can start with you, your perspective, like what that experience was like, and how we as queer leaders can respond in this moment to people questioning our humanity in this way.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. It was, seeing myself in that campaign for the first time was really like unsettling, shocking. I think what I'm more shocked by though is like Congresswoman Nancy Mace in the last few days literally used the T slur in a congressional hearing that is like now in the books of our like congressional record. The dehumanization and the vilification, the scapegoating. And I think also too, one thing that we have to do a better job of, just like all together, like yes, trans people are being targeted, but undocumented people are being targeted. There are trans undocumented people. There are trans people who are seeking asylum in this country that can no longer claim asylum in this country because of the policies that not only the Trump administration adopted, but also the Biden administration made harder. This country's built on immigrants, and we have vilified immigrants. We've vilified trans people. We're vilifying women who seek to have control of their bodies. Nancy Mace, I think it just occurred to me that the reason that she is doing this is because in her state, abortion is illegal after 6 weeks. In her state, women are struggling, dying to get reproductive health care. And so how do we distract women from the fact that they now do not have control over their reproductive freedom and their family planning? Well, let's make trans people the big threat. Let's make trans people the big boogeyman. Let's make women feel that trans people are what's taking away their rights, when in reality, it's in the Supreme Court, it's been Republicans, it's been white men legislating women's bodies, and pick-me white women who voted for Trump and have voted to uphold this patriarchy at 2%? I am ashamed of white people and white women. And I do hope that chunky fucking highlights, very close to the scalp, that have a lot of regrowth, that cause a lot of breakage, keep doing that. I am so disappointed in the lack of nuance, the lack of education, the lack of effort, and there's no effort to educate or to stand up for trans people who have been on the forefront of standing up for everybody. Whether it was women, queers, whoever, you name it, trans people are there advocating. And the level to with which people have been utterly silent, not said a word, while we have elected officials using the T word, just casually. And so that's the one side. The other side, though, I think that for queer people is, when I would speak to abortion rights and I would say like women have had their rights stripped, I would have so many people in the queer community saying like, you need to say birthing person first. Where I would ultimately say birthing person, I kind of like, I'll use it interchangeably, but it's like when you know that there's something that's being targeted by the right, and I don't know what the right answer is on that, I just think that laterally we have to stop oppressing each other, and like laterally we have to stop just eviscerating each other, because we are eviscerating each other.
Well, you hit on this earlier, but I want to talk a little bit about bridging divides, because that's another part of the magic of the show. Jeremiah, you mentioned part of it comes from connecting with the hero, right? The audience being able to see the vulnerability in this person. I think another part of the magic is seeing you all connect with the heroes. And many of them are people who you might not encounter in your everyday life otherwise, but you're able to form these incredible bonds and very, very quickly. What can the country learn from Queer Eye about bridging those differences and how you're able, again, in a very short amount of time, to make meaningful connections with people so different from yourself?
I come from England, and England actually is very similar to America in the way racism operates and homophobia operates. I learned as a very young child that me screaming and shouting and fighting back isn't the way that I keep myself literally alive. And my entire family learned this. We're from a small town with very few brown people. But you can swap us out with any marginalized group. A marginalized group within a small community, you understand very early on that you complaining about it isn't gonna solve the problem. The only way you solve it is by finding a way to show these C words that you are a human, that you are a person, and that your life has value and that you add value to that community. And so I don't remember a time when I wasn't trying to make it very clear that there's nothing that scary or different about me that's going to affect your life in any way. And so being on this show feels so normal and natural. When I hear somebody who has a very different opinion to mine and thinks that whatever I might represent or any of us might represent is so jarring to them and is so different to them, I know exactly how to speak to that. I make them feel seen first and foremost. I make them feel special. I remind them of how powerful they are, that they've got to live this life that they have without the worries that we all have. And then I remind them of what our existence is. And so, in my opinion, it's the only way to move conversations, the only way to change culture. I've seen it time and time again with brown communities in England, Muslim communities in England. The way we survive is not by fighting back. The way we survive is by showing people our humanity first and foremost.
I think watching the episodes of this season, I think the strongest moments for all of us are when we're pulling out the specificity of the human experience of the hero that we're helping. And for me, when I try to do that, when I really lean into trying to understand this person that I don't get and that I'm really frustrated by some things that they believe in, it takes them from a concept to an individual. And it makes it a lot harder for me to judge or dislike an individual than it is a concept or something that I'm afraid of. And my hope is that people who are watching, young, open-minded people with maybe their conservative family members are watching, that it has that same effect on them, because I do think that it's a two-way thing. The more that I do that, the more that my hope is that it's coming from the other side as well, if that makes sense.
And I want to dive in a little bit deeper around the heroes, because that is also part of the show that has really evolved over time, right? The original show, a long time ago, 90s, right?
2003.
Okay, thank you. 2003. Was Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. And so it was like a very specific type of hero being selected. And now they're so much more diverse, right? And they're activists, and they're people of color, and they're queer people, and trans people, and all of these things. How do you all think about what heroes to select? And moving forward into this second Trump administration, do you feel like that will change at all in the types of stories you want to highlight?
Well, God willing, we get to tell more stories into the Trump administration. So at least from our end, so that's that. I mean, I think there's, I don't want to speak for Tam, but there's like certain, like, there are certain types of heroes who we haven't gotten to have on, who we would really like to have on, who we've like long advocated to have on. But ultimately, like casting, and I think our casting is like so great, and that department's really good. But like ITV, who is our production company, and Scout, I mean, they're like, they busy, honey. They got lots of different people. And I think also with Queer Eye specifically, think about how intimidating that is to have like the literal world come into your home. So even it's not only like who we would like to have on the show, it's also finding someone who would be willing to let, because like it seems like it's all intimate, and it is, but we roll very deep in our Queer Eye crew. There's a lot of people. There's like a lot of hands. Jeremiah and formerly Bobby was not in fact doing that alone. There is like a very large team that they are sorting out. There's a beauty team. I mean, there's a styling team. Antoni's got his like cook. I mean, there's a lot. So finding someone who's like, yeah, I'll do that for a week and take a week off work and like let you, like it is fun because you get a lot of cool stuff. But
Open up every wound.
Yeah, but it's that. It's that
You
too.
know?
So
Yeah.
there is people who like and like genres of people I wish that we would have had on already, and God willing, we can have those people on, or Mother Nature willing.
It's hard to find a Muslim family who's willing to do it. Yeah.
And like in the cities where you go, like the human experience is so unique. Like everyone's experience is so different. And so having someone let you into what theirs was, it really doesn't, there's no end to like, I think, interesting and compelling and just cool television when we get to tell people stories.
I just want to say, not to sound like a crazy person, but I think there's never been a more important time for our show and for Queer Eye. There's not a lot of shows on television that are queer focused, that have queer representation like our shows do, that go in and have the conversations that we do, that get to meet the people we do. And there's never been a more important time for the queer community to have representation and for us to get out there and start to understand each other. And that's what this show is. It's always been a conduit, and it's never been more important than right now.
I don't know how large of a community it is of ours that watches the show. I know that a lot of straight
We
people,
debate that. We have a lot of conversations about that.
I know a lot of
actually.
straight people watch the show, but sometimes I don't do this, but I really want to say to
Tell 'em right
the
now,
audience.
Down
there
the
you
barrel.
go.
Here.
Hi guys.
Yeah.
Tell them right now.
I really wish that you would give us a shot. You know, here's the thing. I think it's so easy, and I think we've all been guilty of it. I'm not trying to speak for you, but I think we've all been guilty of it, where you see this queer person become a thing really quickly, and you somehow, for some reason, and I've been guilty of it.
It's internalized homophobia.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you're like, oh, fuck, I don't want to get to know that person. Like, fuck that.
They're annoying, they're this, they're that.
Yeah. But they haven't done anything wrong. Sorry, I know I swore. But yeah, I they haven't done anything wrong. And I think that there are many who don't want to even give us a chance within the queer community. And I want to say, we're having some of those conversations that might really be helpful to you in your own situation. I wish that they wouldn't see us as a threat. I wish that they would see us as truly trying to do our best. This is not an easy show. I swear to goodness, this is not an easy process. Going into these people's homes and dealing with people who typically may not want to speak to people like us, that is hard. That is really hard. Sorry to make this about myself, but that first episode of season 1, the man thought I was a terrorist and made it very clear he thought I was a terrorist purely because I was Muslim. That's not an easy conversation to have.
Sorry, and then he's expected to be like, okay, so these are 3 outfits that actually work for your proportions.
Yes.
Like, just let that sit, like let that sink in for a moment.
Yeah, and so I really hope that if no other season, the queer audience is thinking, gosh, the country's going through so much. Maybe there is something here that might be able to make me feel more positive about what's going on in this world.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to want to support the queer community and then be asking, we need your support now.
I know.
But we do, and
I
that's
know.
such an
We
important
do.
thing.
We need to say it.
Well, I think that what you all are doing bottles the superpowers of the queer community in such an important way at this moment in our country's history. And I don't mean your expertise in beauty and fashion. And I mean your ability to connect with people and channel your humanity and other people's into something that can build community and meaning. And it's a joy to watch it. Congratulations on season 9.
honey.
And we're so grateful to have you all as our Fab Five.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I could have done this for another 2 hours.